Hello, everyone. I'm Meredith Porte, and welcome to Conversations with Friends. Tonight, I feel this is, I think every program has been special, but this is extra special tonight. I go back with this person, this amazing person, Lexie Potamkin. I just realized over 25 years. Lexi is a spiritual teacher. She's a human rights activist. She's an author of many books, including What is Spirit, What is Peace, What is Death. I think there's a whole host of these books and many other books. And her newest book is Know Yourself. But before I introduce her, I just want to tell you the story so you'll get a feeling of Lexi. I was doing a spiritual program 26 years ago at somebody's house, and the head of the Brahma Kumaris, two of the heads, Sister Genti and Daddy Janki, were coming to town, and I was trying to invite people that I thought would be interested. And a friend of mine said, "Oh, this new woman moved to town and she's into health foods. You should invite her." And I went, "Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to be interested in meditation and spirituality. I don't know, but I listened." He says, "Invite her." I invited her, and we happened to sit on a big seat together right next to each other. The room was filled in this house. I think there were about 50 people there. And I looked over a few times to just see if this person, Lexie Potamkin, whom I didn't know, just moved to Miami. She had just moved to Miami, if she was interested. Her face was beaming. Her face was just in a state of bliss. And I said to myself, this is a spiritual person. This person gets it. And that was my first experience with Lexi. I've known her for many years, as I said. I've been to her home and with spiritual gatherings that she's hosted. I've been to so many things, had so many experiences with her. So again, I'm just really thrilled to be here to get to interview her. So Lexi, I don't know if you remember that, but
I do. Like it was yesterday, Meredith. Like it was just, how could it be 26 years ago?
I know. The thing is that, and I've said this before, years ago, there weren't that many that I knew. There was, I was practicing with the Brahma Kumaris, and I had, friends that meditated, but not like today where there's a lot more people. And so to meet you and see that you were on this path and that you were doing all of these things, making so much spiritual effort that, it made me feel like it's okay. This is good. Because there were a lot of people that didn't necessarily understand all of this years ago. There were always seekers and there were always people. But, I wanted to start out with really just a look at your life and how I think that was your first experience, from what you say in the book, Know Yourself, and we're going to get into it, how your first experience was with a Buddhist monk, right? That was like something that kind of was a turning point in your life.
I would say so. Although when I look back at my life, my original wisdom teacher was my father. I grew up in northern Idaho, and I was the youngest of three. I had an amazing connection to nature. I was always out in nature by myself. So in many ways, I had a very meditative, natural farm life. It started when I was, very young. I would take long walks by the river, and I'd pick up flowers. And my father used to say, always remember, Lexi, it's more important to be loving than to be right. And so, fast forward, well, that's a non-egoic statement, big time. And so he was a wisdom teacher for me, and he also lived it. He'd say things like, I was raised Christian, and he'd say, be careful how you live because it's the only Bible some people will ever read. He would say things like that, and he lived it. He was calm. He was loving. So was my mother. Every day he would hug me and say, I love you. I love you. So I was very fortunate to have a background like that. And I don't take that for granted because I know a lot of people don't have that. So I would say that started way back, having parents like that and being the youngest, almost raised like an only child, and having a lot of alone time. I moved a lot because my father was an engineer, so I had to adjust to new lifestyles and new people. And, I lived all over the place. almost like an army brat. Every year or 2 years, I had to leave my school, go to a new school, start over, da da da. And it made me resilient, but it also, I always had animals and I had to do a lot of inner work because of that. It was scary to go to a new school, so I had to muster up inner strength to go meet new people. And then I'd come back and I would have myself, I remember oftentimes being in my room with my animals, just being quiet. So I had that upbringing. And then, of course, meeting the Tibetan Buddhist monks was very pivotal as an adult. I always did human rights work in New York, as you mentioned earlier, and things like that. That was very rewarding. I feel like the happiest people I know, their purpose is to serve and to help others. And I remember I was a workaholic in New York City, and like everybody, you're starting out your career and you work, work, work. But I remember feeling much more fulfilled when I was volunteering at the International League for Human Rights, because I felt I was helping, I was serving. And so I remember promising myself, early on in my career, that I would balance my career out. I wouldn't just be a workaholic. I would do something that gave me a sense of purpose and giving back, because it personally made me feel happier. So, and then of course, meeting the monks, the Tibetan Buddhist monks, which was down here in Miami. It was our friend, Melinda Sinrich. She called me one day and said, these Tibetan Buddhist monks are in town. And I was writing my first book, What is Spirit? And I was actually on deadline with Hay House. I remember she called me and she goes, that dining room you have with that big wooden table, I'd like to bring the monks over for lunch. And I remember I was literally on deadline with Hay House. I had to turn in some chapters to them like the next day. And I said, well, they can only stay an hour because I'm really like stressed. I have to get this book out right. So I opened the door, and these Tibetan Buddhist monks, these beautiful enlightened beings, and this is about 24 years ago, walk into my life. And I'm like, wow, okay. I'd never been exposed to Tibetan Buddhist monks. And we had lunch and I wouldn't let them leave, and it lingered on to dinner. And I was asking him questions about how His Holiness the Dalai Lama got out of Tibet and barely got into India. And I learned about their families. And I was just like, I'm not letting these people go, right? Oh, there I am.
Here he is. Here's the Dalai Lama, Lexi and the Dalai Lama, who became a good friend of yours over time.
Yeah.
I wanted to just get into what I think is really important about this book. And I know that you mentioned it, which is everybody needs to really find their philosophy in life, right?
Yes.
And you explain what this philosophy is, because most people, they have a sense of what's important, right? And maybe that's the journey for all of us to, at some point, figure out truly who we are. And that's what your book says, know yourself.
Yes.
Could you explain what that means to really get in touch with your philosophy, which I'll just quickly say, it doesn't mean, I'm a good artist, or I'm brilliant in math, or I'm really successful. None of that, right? It's something, of course, much deeper. And how do we come to know it?
It's really, Know Yourself to me was a book. I launched it during COVID, and I thought, here we are sequestered, together. And maybe the silver lining is that we can actually spend more time developing our inner world, our rich inner world that exists for all of us if we just spend a little time going inward. And everyone's living by some philosophy, whether they define it that way or not. You're living somehow with some kind of a moral compass of right and wrong. And it depends on your tradition that you were raised. It could be Buddhist, Christian, any religion that you might incorporate, or none at all, but you're living something. So the purpose of this book is, through questions and meditations and inquiry, to figure out what it is, for you personally, what is your own personal philosophy, and help the reader define what that is. And then they can go live it out, because it's living it. It's wonderful to have inner awareness about it, but then you want to go live it out and practice it. And that is really the purpose of Know Yourself.
Unfortunately,
I have the Audible on Kindle, because a lot of people want to hear it,
right?
Not just read it. So that's
on Kindle. Yeah.
Right. Yes.
Good. I mean, I was going to say, unfortunately, most people haven't had, the life that were raised with, a
Yes,
father who was just so generous and benevolent, I should say, and understanding and wise. And I mean, not that people didn't have good parents, but there were things along the way that have happened to people. And
absolutely.
I mean, I'm sure, we've all had our tests in life and everything. But is this book and this idea, of finding your true philosophy, is the idea to kind of peel away some of those negatives, the things that have happened to us along the way it might have come from our parents, it might have come from, things happen in life, there's, like we were saying, there's death, there's illness, there's relationships in one's life that kind of can be very hurtful. So is it to kind of get rid of some of these things that stop us from just being our authentic selves?
Absolutely. I think one of the most
Yeah.
important, and I talk a lot about that in my book, What is Death, is that we have many, many deaths in our lives. Divorce is a death, losing a
Mhm.
job is a death, losing a pet, losing a loved one. Those are all deaths, and letting go. And so I talk a little bit about that in this book, about the importance of learning to let go. We all have pain and suffering. It's part of life. My father died when I was 19. That was one of the toughest times I ever had to go through. I lost my wisdom teacher. I had to be on my own. That pain was also a pivotal point for me, that I was like, wow, life is fragile. I never thought I'd lose him that young. He was only 57 years old.
Oh,
Um, and it makes you stop and think about how precious life is in every moment. None of us know. And I say in that book, we're all going to die. It's a matter of when. So
mhm.
therefore, how do you want to live your life? And I think we all want to live a meaningful life, a life that, and I think to live a meaningful life, you have to spend some time getting to know yourself. And I feel like, I know for me, I'm so sped up. I'm doing so much, 3 kids, this and that, doing running, that if I can spend a little time in the morning meditating, and then of course, when I was writing this book, all the things that I've learned in my journey, I wanted to share with other people, because the purpose of this book is to help people find themselves a little more, to find who they are, to find what their philosophy is, answer questions that are probing within. I always like, Emerson would say when he greeted friends, so what have you learned since the last time we met? Or what has become clear to you since the last time we came together? Just asking yourself questions like that, will help you go deeper within yourself, because I feel that we all are wisdom teachers. Everyone on this planet, I can learn from absolutely everybody. And everyone has wisdom inside themselves if they spend time getting to know who they are.
You make a point in the book, and I'm going to hold up this book again, Know Yourself by Lexie Brockway Potamkin. You make the point that, it does require giving up something. And to me, what the giving up is the busyness that you were talking about and the doing every second. And I know a lot of people like that, and I can be like that myself, and I have to stop myself. What is it that it's very hard for most people to just stop, reflect, give yourself some silence. I have a friend that tells me she goes out every single night of the week. She has to keep going. She has to keep doing things, even during COVID, which, a lot of people sort of slow down, right? She feels that she's not happy unless she's just doing something every night, eating out, going to a show, whatever. Um, can that get in the way, that, desire to be doing, accomplishing, or just moving all the time, being with a lot of people? Does it require the kind of the reflection that you've learned from the monks?
Well, I think so. And I think what you're talking about is our society today. With social media, no one's disconnecting. We're always running, doing, keeping our calendars, and I have to consciously work at, okay, I have to go ground myself today. I have to get out and take a walk, put my feet on the grass. I have to spend 5 minutes just going inward and quiet. It does require some discipline. From my point of view, it's worth it. I have a lot of friends like that too. They go out 7 days a week. They're constantly running and running. I don't know what drives that, but I have a feeling that if they would just spend 5 minutes a day, just letting go, focusing on breath, doing a little bit of meditation, they would discover the richness that lies within themselves. And there's nothing to be afraid of. There's nothing to fear but fear itself, kind of thing. Or like Gary Jampolsky used to say, love is letting go of fear. Maybe there's a little bit of fear about being quiet or being alone. And in the beginning, it can feel sad. If you're used to rushing and racing and having outer experiences validate that, everything's okay, initially it can be a little sad feeling being quiet. But if you can push through that a little bit and just allow spirit or love or memories, think of things that make you happy, appreciate yourself, try to put the love that you're putting out in the world into yourself for a minute. All of that, you can push through a little bit of that initial sadness. And I think you will find at the end of the day, knowing yourself will bring you more compassion, more peace, and more love in your life.
Beautiful, beautiful. And can we add less fear? Because I think people are feeling very uncertain today. They don't know what's going to happen. They're afraid of, getting sick, although hopefully things are getting better. People are afraid of everything, of what's going to happen in the business world, what's going to happen with their children. I mean, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. And I think my question to you is, have you found that giving yourself that quiet time, giving yourself that alone time, just away from all the noise in the world, so much noise, and turning on TV or however you get it on, on your computer or whatever, constantly, can really just, really prevent you from feeling that peace.
Very much so. I feel that fear creates such anxiety in our world and into ourselves. And that's where I have to really pray and ask God to quiet my heart down and my anxiety down and my fear down to a place, praying for me is everything. I pray a lot. I've become a prayer warrior.
You do.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I do.
Yeah.
I pray for my friends. I pray for, family, friends, the world, because I don't want to feel helpless. And what I can do is pray and send loving energy and healing to the world, and do it daily and feel like, I'm making a difference. And we can all do that. We can all do that. So for me, fear is evoked when you don't spend a little time in prayer or in quietness, knowing that it will be okay. That's where self-talk is actually very important. Sometimes you have to talk to yourself. Everything's going to be okay. I'm strong. I can get through this. Let me quiet myself down. Let me let go of the fear, visualize it leaving the body. We have to do whatever we can do to let go of that, because we're bombarded with all of that every day.
It's amazing to me, and not in a good, amazing way. I mean,
No.
how much stuff is confronting us today. I mean, would you have thought like 20 years ago that we, would not just thrive on kind of a spiritual life, but we would really, for me, I mean, I feel like I need a spiritual life more than ever. Years ago, I thought when I started, it was a good thing, it would help me in the future, but I don't think I depended upon it like I do today.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of just keeping me peaceful, keeping me centered. And so, it really does require a practice though. And I see, as you're saying, that you do have a practice. You can't just jump in and out of it, can you? I mean, I don't mean you, one.
In general, people have to forgive themselves. They may jump in and out of it, and just forgive yourself and get back into it. I used to do 20 minutes in the morning and 20 at night. And when I get busy, I do 5 minutes and 5 minutes. And I forgive myself for not doing the 20. I think that meditation and doing inner work is cumulative. It's like brushing your teeth. You don't want to not do it one day. So do it for less time, So if you can do 20 and 20, it's fabulous. When the monks are with me, we'll meditate for hours, and I'm so blissful and happy. So I know what it does for my being. But I just think, yes, it's important to have a practice and commit to it, and forgive yourself if you cut back on it, but don't have anything. Figure out what works for you. If you're super busy, do 5 minutes a day. And then when, it's just, and increase it as you go along, but do something daily. That routine is so important, I feel.
Beautifully said, because I know my own feeling of, I have my regular practice, but if I can't make it that day or something happens, the guilt can set in. So if you make mistakes or you aren't able to do, I don't even mean just with the, being able to meditate or pray or whatever every day, to set, certain time, is to also be able to, would you say, just like you say, forgive yourself or accept yourself, not always, I can beat up on myself. If I
Yeah,
don't do enough, or I feel like I said something that maybe hurt someone, I can feel very guilty. And I try to avoid that, or try to just release that.
just release it. We all
Right.
make mistakes. It's part of the
Right.
human experience. And I do the same. I'll beat myself up. Oh, I wish I would have said this better. I wish I would have handled it better. I wish I would have done this. And I'm going, well, at that time, I guess that's the awareness that I had. It wasn't as good as I would have liked, but that must have been all I could do at that moment in time. I'm going to forgive myself, move on, and hopefully do better the next time.
That's it.
Not repeat that mistake. We learn from our mistakes. We're always going to make mistakes. And it is important to let go and forgive yourself and move forward.
I like, that's what you're saying. I mean, I like everything that you're saying because I understand it. I feel, and I understand it, but to hear it is so important. And I'm wondering if this also has to do with a lot that you talk about in the book, which is kind of the Buddhist philosophy.
Mhm.
And I know that one of your mantras, if there is a mantra, would be compassion. So maybe you could speak to that. I think it's more important than ever.
No, and it starts with
Yeah.
self-compassion. And so part of that forgiveness, if you have self-compassion, you forgive yourself, knowing that you're human. You made a mistake and you need to still love who you are, learn from it, and move forward. And then, of course, extending that compassion. I think if you can look through a lens of the world, that everybody is doing the best they can, given the knowledge that they have at this moment in time. If they knew a better way, they would probably be choosing it. They don't know, and so it allows you to have compassion for people, and that's where the world is now. If people knew a better way, I feel they would choose it, but that's all they know at this moment in time. So we can just, with our love in our hearts and our compassion toward the world and others, hopefully send that beautiful light and love out to other people. And a lot of that has to do with forgiveness. If we forgive ourselves, we can forgive other people. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to hurt our feelings. They're going to say something. Well, we've done that too. We've said stuff, and so it is really important. I think His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, used to say, "My religion is kindness," and that is so important. Just be kind to yourself and others. Sometimes it's really that simple.
That word is just to be kind, is like, to me, and like you say, often we're not kind to ourselves. We get annoyed with people, we get irritated. And so it really is it's a constant, it's constant work. It demands, of us to be, I don't mean every second, but to really sort of embrace this kind of, which is to me an Eastern philosophy, but I know that it's in all religions. And I did want to mention that you speak about other religions, and very in a beautiful way in the book. You're embracing all religions because you feel that, which is the truth, right? I mean, all religions have something to offer, or
I
philosophy.
feel they have. I was lucky where I did a 2-year course where we studied the mystical aspects of Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Sufism. It was beautiful. And so I learned from these wonderful teachers, the beautiful philosophies that I'll call them philosophies. And of course, they could be your religion, of these different traditions. And there's so many other traditions that I didn't study. And I think they all have beauty in them. And they probably all have glaring weaknesses in them. Well, I know they do. Okay. And so that's okay too, because that's part of our human nature again. So, it's important to focus on the positive, learn from the aspects of different traditions, and again, be, just open that you can learn. You can hold on to your tradition and look at, whatever your tradition can be, the trunk of your tree. And all these branches can be all these different kinds of traditions. And then you can, I guess, just open your mind and heart to other ways of thinking. And then it allows you to look at other people and go, oh, that's their philosophy. How beautiful. It's different than mine, but it's beautiful. It's wonderful. And that's okay. And that's where I think we need to be in this world. It's okay if somebody doesn't agree with you. It's okay if somebody in any realm feels completely differently than you do. But it is our responsibility to listen to their point of view. We don't have to agree, but we have to listen. Listen to what they're saying, and then say, okay, so what I hear you saying is this. I don't agree with that, but I think it's beautiful that you feel that way. You know, we've gotten away from that, and that worries me as a society and as a world. There's a lot of differences out there, and they're all okay, as long as people are being kind and respectful to each other. It's okay not to feel the same. It's okay to feel very different about things. But we've somehow gotten to be like, you're right, I'm wrong. That divisiveness, that polarity. I feel like, you know, we're all one. We're all human beings here, and we live a short period of time here. We need to be kind to each other.
Yeah, that what you just said is, to me, you know, it's not just more important than ever, it's urgent, isn't it? If we're
It
going
is.
to move ahead as a world, as a society, we need to all embrace, you know, this whole philosophy of life, which is acceptance. And you write so beautifully about not just the Buddhist religion, but Hinduism in here, and Greek philosophy you even bring
Greek
in. You've got a
philosophy.
chapter on
Yeah.
Taoism.
Yes,
I think you have something for everybody in this book, right?
good. I hope so. I try to.
Judaism. I mean, it's to really embrace the good in all philosophies in everyone's lives, and to have respect for everyone, because or else we're just going to keep digging ourselves in deeper and deeper holes, you know, until none of us can get out. So Lexi, it's just, I'm thrilled to get to interview you, and congratulations for doing the work.
Thank
know,
you.
doing
Thank
the
you.
work. You really, really put a lot of effort, and you're so dedicated to just teaching, writing, speaking, you know, and it does make a difference in the world. People like you. Thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thank you. Wonderful to see you, Meredith. Thank you.